Okay, how many have already joined? I think that is the standard attendance. Uh, how many have I? Okay, please mark your attendance in case you have not done it yet. Okay, so yeah, we are back to square one. It doesn't really seem like there has been much of a gap, and that is because there hasn't been. I think when was the last exam? 22nd, right? I think the lab exam was on
Yes,
20.
sir. 20 seconds.
Yeah, so just 1 week, right? And that too, Holi was just yesterday. So usually you are in a festive mood right after a festival, but the festive moods have to be purged, and we are back to academics. The worst part is we are still on WebEx, and it doesn't look like we are any closer to meeting in person uh, because the trend that is there, right? I mean the pandemic trend. It is probably getting worse again. So nobody knows what will happen. In the next year also, next academic year. So yeah. Anyhow, so again, welcome back. It's the same old place. We are back to WebEx. I hate it, but it looks like there is no way out. We have to stay with WebEx. So this is the first lecture is mostly just an introduction to the course, and there's not really anything related to the syllabus today. We'll start formally from tomorrow. There are some changes as compared to ITP. Plus, I wanted to explain where does this course fit in your overall computer science journey. So this lecture is all about that, and from tomorrow onwards, we'll Akash. Okay, I thought there was someone raising a hand. Okay, so from tomorrow onwards, we'll start the journey formally. So I do have a small presentation. It's not much. We can probably start from there, and then we'll come back to this. Okay. So you already know the name of this course, right? It's object-oriented methodology, and so I said this in the previous semester as well, that one of the overall tasks that I feel I have at my hand is to somehow motivate you to study computer science. Okay, this is a very challenging task because motivating someone to study something requires generating enough interest in the area or the subject overall, so that you become self learners, right? So that you really don't need me or any other teacher as such to learn stuff. You basically become motivated enough to learn on your own. So this was, if you remember, this was one of the aspects of our last semester that we wanted to uh, not just explore. We wanted to basically uh, we wanted to get an overview of computer science. This is why I started with operating systems. In the beginning, we used to discuss things like computer organization. um, I also used to give you simple anecdotes about certain things so that you become more motivated. So the overall idea that we are trying to explore is the art of programming. This is the actual part that we are trying to learn. Okay, the first semester subject, introduction to programming, was, as it says, it was just an introduction. And if you remember, the idea that we covered was, whenever you are given a particular problem, you have to figure out what are the constants, what are the variables, And if there are variables, then what are their types? Characters, integers, real numbers. Sometimes you may have to use arrays, sometimes you may have to use structures. And then, with this whole data, what is it that you did? You basically wrote some statements, right? So you wrote conditional statements like if, else, switch case, and you wrote iterative statements, the loops basically, right? And then you also realize that in certain conditions, when a particular piece of code is to be executed multiple times, let us say with different set of data, a good option is to create a function and then keep calling that function again and again with different parameters. Pointers, as such, it's a very important concept, and as a programmer, you should be aware of something known as a pointer, right? You should know that whatever data types you are using, in the background there are pointers that are playing a huge role. However, other than C and C++, I think almost none of the modern day commonly used programming languages let you manipulate pointers straight away, right? I mean, uh, and if even if they do, they probably restrict it to very basic manipulations. The reason being, pointers are more like two-edged swords. Okay, you can do a lot with them, but at the same time, you can also cut yourself. It becomes really hard to debug programs where the major issue is with your pointers, right? Because every time the addresses might change, and it becomes really difficult to debug such programs. So, but still, as a computer scientist, you should always be aware of what pointers are, and that is what we did in the first semester. I said this in the previous semester, that the overall idea of this particular course is not really to teach you C. Okay, the idea was to get you started with the art of programming, because otherwise it would have been all theory. We had to use some language in order to uh, get started with your practicals, and the language we chose was C. Your seniors were of the opinion that I should start with C++, but to me the reason for choosing C was that there is a natural progression. Okay, when you study C first and then you migrate to C++, it's a kind of a natural progression. You first learn the core programming, and then you learn the object orientedness. Okay, how to build your systems in an object oriented fashion. So C++, along with object oriented programming, in my view, is let us say a step higher than what you guys have already done. So this is why we started with C, but in this semester we are going to move to C++. And similar to the previous semester, the lectures are more about concepts. Okay, the example that I gave was that uh, in mathematics, your teacher will teach you theorems, right? So the teacher will tell you what is the Pythagoras theorem. The teacher will tell you, what is sine square theta plus cos square theta, things like this. But exactly how to use those theorems and those formula when a particular example or a particular problem is put up in front of you, that is up to you, that you learn with the help of practice. So the same thing is here. We actually learned some programming concepts, and how much did you actually learn its application, that depends on how much you practiced, right? The same uh, uh, the same philosophy is going to continue in this subject as well. The lectures will be more about concepts, but you will have to hone your skills at using them in the labs. Okay, and you have to do as much practice as possible. And frankly, there are so many resources available online for learning C and C++ and all these things, that it's kind of redundant. My whole job is kind of redundant. The only task that I feel I have is to guide you in a proper fashion, so that you can do these things in a systematic way. Otherwise, material wise, I'm pretty sure there is better material available online. than what I am going to give you. So, but the idea is, it's not the material that is important. It is the practice that is important. You have to uh, practice as much as possible so that you learn these concepts. So basically, whatever we covered in the previous semester, um, it can probably be called as structured programming. Okay, the programming where you use structures and then some methods over it, some functions over it. And there are actually many such terms which are out there. There are terms like procedural programming, functional programming. Although functional programming is something else, but the idea is that you write functions. Um, there are no strict definitions for all these. So uh, if you want to argue whether this is procedural or not, whether you want to argue this is structured or not, it's not a zero or one thing. It's these definitions are not crisp. But one can say that other than object oriented programming, maybe the other kind of programming that you learned till now is actually structured programming or procedural programming. Now, this is why object oriented programming becomes a little more important, right? Why? Because almost all the code that you are going to write later in your life, with certain exceptions like whether it could be that you might write a device driver, or you may be going to write some code for some embedded system. These are certain exceptions, but in general, most of you are going to write programs, write code, which will roughly fall under the category of object-oriented programming. So this is why you need to learn these concepts. I'm pretty sure because of your classes with your seniors, a majority of you might already know these concepts. Some query? Someone has probably unmuted him or herself. See, I have to go back to check the. Can someone please tell the person whomsoever it is? Because I'll have to actually go back to that.
अंकित कुमार आई है.
Ankit Kumar, please unmute yourself. Sorry, mute yourself. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, so object oriented programming, the reason it is more popular is because it is closer to the actual world that we live in. When you start programming using object oriented methodology, you'll realize that uh, it's more intuitive in some sense, right? The abstractness of your code, which we saw till now, it will be less obvious the moment you start using object-oriented programming. You might have already done it with your seniors, but we will go through the concepts again because I'm pretty sure your seniors would not have had so much time to go into the details of these concepts. They would have probably started on day one with what is a class and stuff like that, and maybe some basics of what is inheritance and everything. But it's not possible for a tutorial on programming to cover these concepts in detail. But this is the idea of this course, that we are going to discuss those concepts in detail. C++ will play the same role that C played in the previous semester. That whenever you will like to implement those concepts in terms of programs, we are going to use C++. And similar to the previous semester, the focus in the theory in the lectures will be on concepts, and it will be the labs where you will do your actual programming. This is an important slide. After this presentation, I'm also going to show you a a particular example. That example will not be a part of the recorded lecture, but the concept that I'm trying to get through here is that when you write code, there are usually two types of coding that you do. Okay? The first type is your competitive coding, right? And I'm pretty sure you guys are already well ahead in this term. So, right, um, you guys have already started writing code on Hacker Earth. You guys are already solving problems on Hacker Earth, right? And from that perspective, the data structures course that you are having in this particular semester is very important. In fact, probably the most important subject, along with maybe algorithms. If you have a course in algorithms, data structures plus algorithms, these are the two most important subjects for you. Let us say when it comes to your preparation for placements is concerned. So if you are targeting your placements from today itself, it's a good idea to do well in data structures, because for placements that will be a very important aspect. But I also told you that essentially there are two types of skills that you will require. One is to actually get into a company, and then the second one will be to survive in that company, because the job that you will be doing in that company. So system building that we are going to look at in this subject is essentially the part of the second skill. Okay, you have to learn how to build stuff. Okay, how to write code that interacts with each other. Okay, it's not about writing one program which takes an array as an input and produces some strings as output. No, that is not the idea. With system building, you have multiple programs that are interacting with each other. Each program has a specific task, and overall, these programs, when they gel well with each other, they are able to create an overall application, a system out of it. So this course is going to target that part of your skill set. You are going to learn how to build systems in this course. Okay, and this is what I said, that this skill is useful when you do an internship, or you join a company, or you come up with your own startup, right? The skills that you will learn in this course, I mean, this is just a beginning. I mean, there is a continuous journey, right? But this is the starting of that skill set, and you will have to enhance that skill set as well over your for your BTech program. And this is the idea, that as a programmer, both of these skills are important for you. So never feel that one of the two is complementary to the other, right? You will need to be good in both areas, right? So competitive coding as well as system building, in order to become a good engineer. So when you do these courses, data structures as well as object oriented methodology, the idea is that they are both programming heavy subjects. You are going to write a lot of code, but the objective is different. Okay, in object oriented methodology, it doesn't matter how fast is your code running, right? I mean, it's the efficiency. Of course, if you write efficient code, it's always good, but the major objective is to learn skills, and some of these skills are actually non coding skills. You have to understand that in this subject we will learn some skills which are basically non coding skills. Okay, they are more like designing or coming up with a plan of how to build a system. So we will start from there, that how should we build a particular software system, because it's not about writing one program, it's about building multiple smaller elements which are going to come together and act like uh, one homogeneous system. So we will see, in fact, this is a good example, that in a sense, the designing activities that we will do are a kind of a counterpart to writing algorithms and pseudocode when you were a beginner in programming, right? So before writing program, um, I said, if you are a new programmer, if you are new to the whole arena of programming, it is not a bad idea to start with algorithms first. Okay, algorithms will allow you to channel your thoughts together. It will allow you to structure your thinking before you actually write the code. So whatever designing activities you are going to do, they are in some ways a precursor to actually building the system. They will help you out in figuring out what code to write. Okay, and some of these system building skills include, so let us say your application wants to communicate with another application which is running on another system. So you need to communicate across computer networks, or you want, till now whatever programs you wrote, it just like you executed it, and they started from the beginning and reached the end. What if you want multiple pieces of code to run in parallel with each other, right? So we will see how that can be done, how you can write a code that runs in parallel to each other. Or we will see a very basic example of how to create a simple GUI application. An application which has a button, a text box, a list, things like these. So a very simple UI application where you create these buttons. And the reason I'm teaching all these things in object oriented methodology, even though frankly speaking nobody will teach you these things in this course, the reason I'm doing this is for two purposes. First, I know that you guys already have a good knowledge of C++ because of thanks to your seniors. They've given you a good knowledge of C++. You probably are far more comfortable with C++ than I am right now. Right? I mean, the last time I wrote any serious C++ code was probably when I was in BTech fifth semester. Since then, I studied C++ during my 10 plus 2 level, but the only other time that I actually wrote any C++ code was during my BTech fifth semester. After that, I picked up Java, and since then, I'm a Java programmer. Java and C++ also have many uh, there is a lot of overlap in Java and C++ as well, and there is also an overlap between C and C++. So again, it's a kind of a natural progression. But you guys probably are much better at C++ as compared to me. So I will also learn, right? I will also revise everything when I'll teach you. And the most important aspect of this subject. This is something that a lot of people might actually disagree with, that you're only in your first year of your BTech, you should not be put into situations like creating a project. But I want to try this, because uh, essentially you are going to work on many projects once you it'll probably start with an internship maybe in third year, but from there onwards you are going to do is basically work on projects. You will be part of a team, you'll have to work with other people, you'll have to learn how to divide responsibilities among yourself, and then do your job well and in such a way that others can work with you. So we will have a small term project also in this course, and it will just be a small project, a 15-day project or so, and you will use some of the skills that some of the system building skills that we will cover in this particular course, and you will use it to build an actual application, something that runs, something that you can show that someone that I have built this. As far as evaluation is concerned, one aspect that I realized, especially after seeing so many emails when I released the marks for you guys, I received so many emails about class participation marks, and I realized that a lot of you feel that the marks that you got for class participation was significantly lower as compared to what you expected. And I had given an explanation also that why it happened because of an outlier, and irrespective of what function you try to fit to that data, if there is an outlier, no amount of fitting is going to give you a good result. You'll learn these things when you do a course on statistics probably. But some of you, if you are planning to pursue machine learning as a career path, you should probably do some basic course on statistics. If it is not a part of your curriculum, you can do it from some online learning platform. But once you do a course on statistics, you will understand that if you have an outlier in the data, it becomes really hard to fit it in a proper fashion. But anyhow, I also realized that throughout the semester I kept on getting mixed responses for shepherding. Some of you thought that it's not easy to do shepherding, and towards the end I could see that nobody actually wanted to be a shepherd. So I have basically I've done away with all those choices. In this semester we will only have live lectures. Okay, I will share the recordings of each lecture on Google Drive as well as YouTube, but there is no concept of shepherding now. Okay, we'll just have live lectures, and if you miss the lectures, you can of course go and have a look at the live lectures later, and it is uploaded on YouTube. The evaluation is like this: 10% will be for surprise quizzes, and please understand that this time they will be really surprising, because I will not give you any hints that in the next week there will be a quiz, or the next to next week there will be a quiz. This time they'll just happen at any time. It will be different for different batches. So it is possible that you might have a quiz today, but the other batch does not have the quiz and in the whole week, or vice versa. But if you basically miss this quiz, it's on your own. It's the responsibility is on you. I have no responsibility. The attendance, even though I will take, because it is an academic requirement, I have to submit your attendances at the end of the course. But attendance does not have any weightage in this semester. Okay. So if you are just doing these lectures for the sake of attendance, please don't do. There is no point doing it just for attendance. Okay. In fact, I am very happy if you simply open up that form that I sent and mark your attendance, and you don't even come on WebEx. Okay, I don't have any problems with it, because attendance is not going to have any effect on your overall marks. The class participation marks are now out of the question. 20% is for the term project that you will create, 30% for the mid semester exam, and 40% for the end semester exam. In the labs, we are going to have a significant change. Okay. um, I have pre-decided uh, four dates, and we are going to have lab exams. There will be four lab exams throughout your semester, and the dates also I have checked the calendar, and provided that the timetable doesn't change and your labs remain on the same days of the week, these are the actual dates on which there will be a lab exam. You are allowed, and this is why I'm telling you these dates in advance. Okay, so if you are planning anything on your personal level, please make sure that you understand the risk associated with it, right? I'm telling you all these dates beforehand, so that your personal level plans are not affected. You can miss at most one out of these labs. Basically, I will consider three best scores. So in the previous semester we had this n minus 3 rule. Here we have n minus 1, and that too n is fixed to 4. Okay. And so all the other labs that are there, so we have a weekly lab slot. On these dates, the weekly lab slots will be used for lab exams. On other weeks, they'll be basically practice labs. Okay. So if you are already well versed in C++, I thought you can use that time to do something else, something more productive. So you need not come to these labs. But if you are a beginner, I will suggest that you come to these practice labs. There will be a TA. The TA will be with you for 2 hours. I will also give you some simple sample problem. It's not something that you're supposed to submit anywhere. Okay, it's for your own practice. So I will give you a problem. Try to code it in those 2 hours. If you get stuck somewhere, anywhere, okay, you can ask your TA for help. So this way, you basically prepare yourself for these lab exams. It's perfectly fine if you feel that I don't need any preparation. I can directly come to the lab exam and I can give the exam. It's all fine with me. So there again, there the attendance in these practice labs is optional. Okay. But please understand that I am doing this so that especially those people who are weak in programming can use this time to learn. This is the idea. So if you are weak in programming, please use these practice labs. In these labs, it's more like an actual lab. You guys will all be on one particular Google Meet. You can help each other out. You can talk to the TA. It's an open discussion kind of thing. For 2 hours, you basically get to write some code, and there will be a kind of mentor around in form of a TA. And if the TAs cannot help you out, I will of course be on a standby. So if you have a problem which the TAs cannot solve, the TAs can contact me. I can come online and try to resolve your problem. But the idea is these labs will not be evaluated. It's just for your practice. And we will formally start the course from tomorrow. Okay. Any queries now? Let me check the chats. Uh, Yeah, so Tia, just the live lectures now from now onwards. I mean, I will share the recording of these live lectures. You understand that, but you will get it post lectures. Earlier, you used to get lectures before the class, right? And then you can watch it as many times as you want, and then in the class you can discuss. Now, basically, the lectures will be live. No, Aditya. Actually, I mean, to be fair, I really don't know what really happened. Initially, I was offered DS, but then they asked me to teach object-oriented methodology instead. So it's fine with me. I mean, uh, probably I'm better at teaching you how to build systems anyhow. And the idea is that, see, those system building skills that I talked about, right? Nobody's actually going to teach you that. You have to understand that. These skills, where is it, these skills, no, nobody will teach you these things directly in any course. And in fact, this is the reason that I decided to use this opportunity to teach you something that no one else is going to teach you. So because I know that object oriented programming, you guys already know how to write code in C++. So I thought, okay, I'll use this as an opportunity to teach you something else. So this is why I decided to uh, include these things in the syllabus, so that and let me also tell you that I gave this example in the previous lecture as well, that when you guys learned differentiation, how did you learn it, right? I mean, in the beginning you were just taught some formulae, right? That ddx of x to the power n is nx to the power n minus 1, or ddx of e to the power x is e to the power x, so on and so forth, right? But you probably did not appreciate learning all these formulae till you probably solved a problem of maxima and minima, right? That you are given a particular function, and you are asked to figure out where exactly this function reaches a minimum point, or where exactly this function reaches a maximum point. And that is where you would have used those skills, right? You basically put d dx of fx to 0, you figure out the roots, then you figure out d2x by dt2 d sorry d2x, right, by dx, uh square. And then you basically put it, you figure out the sign of the function at those points, and you can tell me whether it is a maxima or a minima. So the idea is that you learned differentiation so that you can figure out the behavior of a function. So in some ways, we are seeing all the skills that I'm trying to teach you, I want to somehow intrigue your interest in computer science, right? Maybe if you know how to communicate from one system to another system using networks, or you know how to run multiple pieces of code in parallel, or you know how to build a simple GUI, maybe it will probably motivate you to learn computer science better. So I'm just using this opportunity. They've asked me because usually the object oriented methodology course is a very boring course. It's because we have you have to learn a lot of non coding things in here. You have to learn how to do designing and modeling, so it becomes very boring, right? So I thought I'll use this time because you guys have already learned C++ through your seniors, so we will not repeat all the C related stuff, right? You learn the loops and the conditionals and the char, int, float, double, the function prototypes, they are all exactly the same in C++ as well. So we can use up that time, and I can try to teach you something else.